Western medicine. It can be extremely valuable or it can be terrible. Look, here's the deal. If you work with it by finding ways to use Western medicine to help you develop better habits, help you develop better behaviors, then it's effective. If you use Western medicine to simply cover things up or as a Band-Aid or to fix everything for you, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. Why am I talking about this? Well, right now, the GLP-1 agonist drugs like Ozempic or the generic name semaglutide is all the rage. Do they make you lose weight? They do. They kill your appetite. You eat less. But here's a problem. If you don't use that in a way to help foster better behaviors for the long term, it's not going to work forever. You're going to have to keep taking it for the rest of your life. Who knows what that could potentially lead to? And you're not going to get fit and strong. You just might lose weight. In fact, studies show people lose muscle if they don't count their protein and lift weights alongside with it. So, can you use these peptides or medications to enhance your results, to help kickstart things? You can, but you still got to work on the behaviors. You still got to work out. You still got to figure out how to eat healthy food, even though you're eating less. You still got to hit those protein targets. If you do that, you are going to succeed, or at least your odds of success are much higher. If you don't do those things, just like everything else before, there is no such thing as a magic pill.
Once again, this feels like treating the symptom, not getting to the root of it.
This is the first time an actual medication. It's a peptide, though. It's not a drug, right? There's a difference, right? Peptides are things that are found in the body. Drugs are synthetic. That was the best way it was explained to me by Dr. Seeds in that episode we did. But this is the first time we have something that legit works. That's not
it does work. It's kind of crazy.
Like a crazy stimulant, or it's got like this scary, heart effects or whatever, like fen back in the day. It doesn't make you feel like crazy or whatever. It actually does work. I mean, you take it and you end up eating less. It does reduce appetite to that effect. But studies will show that people lose muscle and fat because if you just eat less, you don't send a signal to build muscle. Your body will slow its metabolism down to meet that new intake, and then you're kind of plateaued and you're less fit. You're less strong. You're less fit. Now, if you use this as a way to help you, because changing your lifestyle from what you're currently doing, let's say you're 50 pounds overweight, to go from that to a lifestyle that is where you're 50 pounds less body fat, that's a big change. And training wheels can definitely help, but you have to also learn how to ride the bike. You can't just put training wheels on and expect that that's going to fix everything for you.
Are you guys feeling the explosion of it yet?
Everywhere.
I know it's they're out of stock a lot of places, because originally it was geared towards diabetic patients, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. It's so popular that celebrities are being accused and they're coming out and saying, no, I'm not using it. It's like the new steroid, right? Like actors get in shape for a movie and it's like they're on steroids, no, they're not.
Trying to be all hush.
Yeah, now it's like, they must have been on semaglutide. They must have been on on Ozempic.
I always know when something is really making waves when it starts to catch my family and friends, and then
or it's on The View. Yeah. I'm like, oh no!
I hate that show.
No, and I mean, right before we got on this podcast, I was actually text messaging back and forth for a friend who's asking for his mother, who can't find Ozempic anywhere, which is just is the brand name, right, of the semaglutide, is looking for that. And do I know where you can get it? And of course, I said, yeah, you can get it through our partner. But it's getting to, yesterday or day before yesterday, we had live callers. We just talked to someone. We had a live caller that was using it already. We definitely are starting to see it make its way through the general population. And we'll see what happens, when it all washes out. Like, we know what the research says as far as how useful it can be. I mean, that's why it's getting so popular, because of what a breakthrough it is. But because of the point you make that it is just addressing symptoms and it's not necessarily addressing the root cause, like, how many people will have true success?
Yeah, and I wonder too, because I don't know if it was Dr. Seed or Jay, who was talking about like, there's a period where you have to cycle off it as well, right? And like sometimes like some of these other peptides is like, 6 month sort of weaning off kind of period and then coming back to it. So I don't know if there's really a lot of information around that right now. It just seems like the wonder drug.
Yeah, it's what it reminds me of? It's like hormone therapy. It's like, well, if I just went on growth hormone and testosterone, then I would get like this incredible fit physique. I mean, your body will change a little bit by doing that, but if you don't like work out and really work on your diet, it's going to be limited. It's like that with these peptides like semaglutide. It will reduce your appetite. I mean, what'll happen is you'll take it. Look, I've talked now to enough people. I've talked to people now who've gone through our partners at mphormones.com. So we work with doctors. And the reason why we do this is because there's a lot of, people out there that are just willy-nilly prescribing stuff, and they're not like coaching people. They're not saying things like, it's going to kill your appetite. Make sure you get enough protein. Yeah. Make sure you lift weights. Let's work on your behaviors. They're just like, here you go. And then, let's just have you
write the prescription and send it another way.
Yeah. And so I'm talking to people, and what they're telling me is like, well, yeah, I just don't want to eat as much. I don't have the same cravings. I don't want to eat as much. So it's easier for me to then start to create good relationships with healthy food. See, that's the right way to do it, right? Because I understand, like, it's really hard to go from unhealthy to healthy. Let's say this is, of course, very general categories, right? But it's really hard to go from unhealthy eating habits to healthy eating habits when you have this like really strong urge to eat because you still haven't developed a relationship with food where that's not so overpowering, right? So you still have cravings because you're stressed or sad or bored or you're numbing something or whatever, right? Because food can temporarily make you feel better, and we know that it's abused. Food is the most abused, quote unquote, drug in the world. So you're like, okay, I want to lose all this weight. I know this is the direction I need to go, but I have this overwhelming cravings and just feelings around it, and it's hard. It's hard to get the ball going. It's hard to develop those new relationships because it takes time. Well, in that case, this can help. And like I said, I've talked to people where they're like, all it did is it gave me enough to allow me to then start to make those new disciplines, those new behaviors, develop different relationships. And you know what I'm finding now? Now I'm enjoying healthy foods. I'm actually wanting those over the less healthy foods. And I actually talked to somebody who's weaned themselves off. Their appetite did go up, but guess what happened? They wanted to eat more healthy foods because they worked on the behaviors, not just I'm eating less. That's the way to do it. That's why I want to be very careful with how we communicate.
That's why
there
needs to be coaching along with it.
Totally.
So the people that I've heard that have had success with have also noticed, this is what actually makes me curious about trying it, is when they go to eat off their diet or they go to eat, like say like my case would be like ice cream or something like that, they are way less likely to binge.
It's less pleasurable, less of that,
Yeah, they don't want to eat because this is something that this is not something that I'm cured. I'll probably have for the rest of my life. I have to be so mindful around stuff like that where it's like if I let that open and I decide I'm going to have ice cream, I literally will finish a bowl of ice cream and be like, I could easily go for a second one. That's how I am. I'm like, I could go for a second one. Remember, that half gallon is
remember
almost
in
empty.
Tennessee and you got the cone with the ice cream on it? Just watching you eat it, I'm watching a very disciplined person who you could tell is struggling. Like you're eating it, and I could just, you know what I mean? You watch. I wanted to film it, but I'm not going to do
Katrina
that.
Katrina,
but it's like you're so like.
Katrina makes fun of it. She says it looks
like making love to it.
Yeah, that's what she says. She goes. It is something to watch you eat things.
Bro,
that
it
you
almost
enjoy.
felt inappropriate. Like I don't want to look.
I felt a little dirty watching it.
Yeah, dude.
You need your own room, bro, or what? Yeah.
You were so
hey,
into
dude.
it.
So I mean, I tell you what, I could totally connect and relate to my clients that have struggled with stuff like that because my entire life to this day, I still wrestle with that, and it's taken an incredible amount of discipline, awareness, put barriers before. Like I have to do all those things because I literally will do that. I will eat something like that, and it's wild. It's like and so I know what people that struggle with this feel like is you eat it, and the average person would eat that big serving and be like, oh, I'm so full. I go like, oh.
Yeah.
I might feel it a little bit, but then there's something that switches. It goes like, yeah, I could do another one.
There's still a little more left.
Yeah, and when I was younger, I would do those things, you know?
Well, you've identified why, right? You've identified the relationship, and you talked about how you grew up and all that stuff. But obviously, it's not a problem for you anymore.
Yes.
So what's cool about this is You get it, you understand it, you've done work on it, you've developed a different relationship with it. That doesn't mean you don't enjoy it. This is what people think. They think, oh, I'm going to fix this thing and never want it again. No, you'll want it, but you'll have a different relationship to where it doesn't control you anymore. But I can see I understand how it can be so hard when you go from I don't watch what I eat at all. I eat whenever I feel a particular way. Food controls me essentially. Most people are like this. To now I'm going to have to develop this relationship with food where it's not like that. Like to go from there to there, I could see why a GLP-1 agonist like semaglutide or the other peptides, why that could be so valuable. But I can also see why it could be not valuable while somebody's not going to work on those relationships. Like imagine if you never worked on that relationship and all I did was gave you an appetite suppressant. Yeah. And so you eat less ice cream.
Right.
You're not fixing anything.
No. And eventually you want to get off that. You get off of it, and then all the behaviors come back in because you really didn't address.
And you would have never learned how to work out or eat protein.
So let me hear what you guys think about this. This is also one of the things I don't like about the movement in our space in the last decade of, not calling a bad food, a good food. Like food is not good or bad. Because what it has done is it's justified those behaviors for a lot of people, and I don't like that. Like I always utilize that as a way of communicating to my clients. Like these are better foods for you. Like this is a good food. This is a good choice. Like this is good. This is not a good choice. It doesn't mean you can never have it or you're a bad person because you eat it. It's like it is not a good choice for a lot of different reasons. Yes. And so there's this huge movement in our space in the last decade of that's demonizing food and that causes.
It reminds me of the whole thank you for smoking. That whole thing where the guy's has all these great arguments that it's all self-responsibility and it's like this and that and the other. Meanwhile, it's proven how addictive it is, or it's proven that it's not good for you, and it's detrimental once you get hooked and you look at it.
It's where it stems from is people can. And this is true. This is always the worst arguments or the worst ideologies always come from some truth, right? They never come from something that's completely false. There's always some truth, and that's why they gain so much power, why they have so much attraction. And the truth part is, it is true that someone can develop so much shame around their behaviors that then it fuels them to engage in those behaviors even more. Because if you go to food to numb bad feelings, okay, if that's your go-to, which for a lot of people that is, whether they're aware of it or not, and then they do it, and then they feel ashamed about it.
They do it in hiding.
Then they're about to go reach out for those foods again. Yeah. So there's some truth to that. I get what they're saying. But really what it is it's not about saying there is no such thing as good or bad. It's all subjective, blah, blah, blah. It's more like, it's bad for you, but that's okay. Yeah. You make mistakes. We're all human. That's the angle.
Well, it also
not change the morality of it.
It also perpetuated this culture around really ripped fit people posting all their shit food.
Yeah.
And that's the part I didn't like about that was there's no such thing as good or bad foods. Look I can have pizza, I have donuts. And so these fitness influencers, while they have these rock hard abs, are only posting and sharing when they're eating junk food to try and normalize all foods and to not demonize these foods in the name of this movement. But when I think about the average consumer, the average person who has very little education and knowledge around food and nutrition, what they see is it's the ice cream's not making me fat. Oh, the donuts aren't making me fat. That's just I can do it. He can do it. She can do it. I should be able to do it too. It's a poor way to communicate that, and I think it fails more people than it helps. So for the people that got lost because they got shamed, and that whatever percentage that was, and then we decided to overcorrect and go the other direction, and then you have all these fitness people that are picking about. And by the way, I feel passionate about it because I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of being the 21-year-old trainer who could eat McDonald's because I was playing basketball every single day, lifting weights 7 days a week, taking 10,000 plus steps.
It took a lot to me to build new associations with healthy food. It took a lot of discipline, a lot of work, because it's so much easier for me to just grab something that I remember as a kid that I loved and it tastes really good and it's engineered that way, and it's I can justify that so much easier than to really focus on working on bringing in more nutrient dense foods and like trying my best to realize what that's doing for my body. And it's, again, that other message to me is just so counter to that. It's hard to like reconcile.
Yeah, first off, to comment on that, I hate it when people do that, because it's like, imagine talking to alcoholics and drinking in front of like, alcohol is not bad, bro. Look, I could drink, I could put it right down.
Exactly.
It's not a problem. Like, what a shitty person you are to do that.
All
like,
in the name of the trying not to shame them for it's bad, right? That's like the overcorrection for that issue.
Yeah, no,
right?
no. I hate that. That makes me so upset. And then to what you're saying, Justin, about relationships, there's some relationships are easy to develop. So like, it's easy to develop a relationship with leisure. Okay, it feels good to sit down and relax and not do it. That's easy.
Oh yeah.
It's harder to develop a positive relationship with actually working out and feeling tired and getting sore and sweating and muscles burning and struggle. However, it's possible, because once you start to connect the dots and realize how it really affects you and see how it affects your life and gives you the energy and you feel great and all that stuff, then it becomes enjoyable. Then you actually develop a relationship with it where you enjoy it. So people who don't work out, they often think fitness people are crazy. Like, what do you mean you like working out? That sucks. No, they're not lying. They're telling the truth. They like it because they've developed that relationship with it. You could do that with healthy food. You could do that with being monogamous. You could do that with waking up and going to work every day. You could do that with being with your kids instead of distracting yourself on social media or going out with your buddies. Mm-hmm. Like, these are all things you could do. It just takes some awareness. But when you do it, then eventually you get into a place where this is what you want to do. So how are you such a disciplined person? You know, you ask somebody who's been doing this for a long time how they have so much discipline. Do you think they struggle with the discipline every day at that point, 15, 20 years later? No, they enjoy it. It's like, no, I've worked on this relationship.
This is what works best for me.
And it feels good. I enjoy it. In fact, I like it more than not doing anything. I like it more than eating unhealthy. Like, the healthy food actually pulls me more than the unhealthy food. So you could do this. And, back to the original point of these peptides, I could see how this, with the right coaching, with the right doctors, again, I can't speak for everybody, but at mphormones.com, these are the people that we want to work with. And they will do this the right way. They're not going to train you or coach you, but they are affiliated with Mind Pump, and this is how we communicate.
Well, this was also why, when we decided to do this, it was really important for us to have a forum that went alongside it, so that there is that community, that coaching,
accountability.
Exactly. That piece to it, that we don't just like, let these people get sold these peptides and then leave them off to try and go figure it out on their own, because we know that the coaching piece, the community piece, is as important, if not more important, in the situation.
All right, today's program giveaway is MAPS Strong. If you want to win this, you have to leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop it. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. If you win, we'll let you know in the comment section. By the way, we have another channel called Mind Pump Clips. These are short, fit tips and information in clip format. So it's Mind Pump Clips. Go check them out. We're also running a sale right now on some programs. MAPS Cardio is 50% off. The Shredded Summer Bundle of programs is 50% off. And the Bikini Bundle of programs is 50% off. If you're interested, just click on the link at the top of the description below. All right, back to the show.
Yep. You talked about how this could apply to other assets or aspects of our life. It made me think of the Jordan Peterson talk that we just were a part of. And, what did you guys take away? First of all, that was my favorite talk I've heard him do yet.
Yeah.
I was not
phenomenal.
Was not anticipating it to be this like major connection to parenting today. Yeah. Like, I thought that was really, really interesting. What are some things that you guys took away as far as like, behaviors around raising children? So that, since that was mainly the topic,
I think for me, it was very well, a lot of his talk revolved around play and like how that development of play is so crucial, especially like before 4 years old. Like, I really that hit me really hard. And I mean, it reassured a bit of like our strategy, Courtney and I's with the boys, trying to make sure that we establish that firmly, and mainly because boys, their energy, like they're not going to get a lot of opportunity like that sitting in a classroom and like having to sit still, learn, memorize, be quiet. And so I just wanted to, because otherwise, there's options now where you can kind of have unconventional type learning and you can go in that direction. We wanted to kind of keep them in a conventional setting for the most part, but it was very fascinating to me to see how that like plays out as you form as an adult. If you didn't get that kind of exposure to good play and the kind of feedback and the social integration that's involved with that, and being able to interact with, some stranger, or like a relationship with my wife, or it spawns out to literally everything in terms of human connection.
Same thing. As I was listening to him talk, we look at play like, oh, they're just having fun. They're developing incredibly complex social skills, and we're very social creatures. We're the most social creatures we know of, right? So it's like, you and I are going to play, and we have to agree on a preset of rules. Otherwise, I'm just doing something and you're just doing something. And we also have to agree on the game, and we have to play in a way that's fair, but also competitive. Why? Because I would like for you to be able to play with me again in the future. Yeah. Otherwise, if I'm a dick or whatever, then it doesn't work. You don't want to play with me anymore. We have to play hard enough so that you don't feel like I'm just not doing anything, but not so hard that I hurt you.
Not patronizing you, but I'm inviting you.
And this literally is like how you are in life and how you deal with people and how you work with people in business, or if you buy something from someone or you meet someone on the street. And so he talked about the complexity of it, how important it was. And then he talked about the story because he was clinical psychologist. So he would have patients, and he talked about this boy that he worked with who was a teenager, I think at the time, 13. And he could tell that this kid never played and how awkward he was when he would try and like roughhouse or whatever, because he never learned the skills, those social skills, and how awkward he was around other people.
Right.
That was really fascinating.
And you can easily misinterpret somebody's energy towards you if you're not exposed to that, right? Like, and it's like, you don't understand that that's just a dance that needs to happen. And if you're like weird and abrasive towards it, like it's going to turn into something that was totally unintentional going in.
Yeah, it really it blew my mind on several levels. One, it definitely solidified how important our role is as fathers from that 2 to 4 age.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very mind blowing to think like you can miss that and then it's gone. Like if you don't take the time to do that, like, and then they get beyond that age, you're not getting back that integration into society and how important it was. It really hit home for me too, because I recently talked on the show a few weeks back about, I told you guys the gaming experience I had with Max, and we took the iPad away from him. And I actually had somebody that commented, and the lady commented on my Instagram, and she made a valid point, right? That, hey, don't be so, scared about the iPad. Our son did this, and he had a 7th grade reading level, and they're talking about how smart he was and everything like that. And I'm like, oh, that's good points. There is some value to the things like that. But then after listening to Jordan Peterson talk, it's like, forget all the education that they're getting from it. What they're missing though is something.
How to be a good human.
Is far more crucial into them integrating into society. And then I couldn't help but think how many times we've talked on the show about, kids that or young adults that we've interacted with today now, right? That are 15, 16, 17 at workplaces. Remember, we've told stories of AirPods being in, no eye contact. And it's weird. Like, right away, I made that connection of, oh my God, this is the generation that had the iPhone from birth.
This is also the generation that was on lockdown for a year or two, away from kids separated and their friends. And just, that's crazy.
Right. So combine them with missing, and who knows, because I don't know everybody's story in their house with their parents, but you can't help but think something as powerful as the iPhone, the iPad, and these tools were introduced for the first time 2 decades ago into our society, and that generation is going to be the most impacted from it because we didn't set any barriers or anything like that. And so you have children that maybe they did get some play, but they didn't get as much play as they would have had they been the generation before, because they would have been forced to play with others or with their parents all the time, and they wouldn't have the opportunity, the option to even grab that iPad. So I can't help but go like, man, I don't care whether you think you did a pretty good job or not with that thing. It probably impacted that entire generation so much and we're starting to see that unfold in society. And when he tied it all into like adulthood, workforce, exchanging ideas, working with just everything, it was just like, wow.
I saw this one woman, I thought it was such a great thing that she said. Somebody goes, well, you're not going to let your kids be on electronics all the time? Like, don't you want them to like be a part of society? She goes, no, that's the point. Like, I don't want them to be like everybody else. And I thought to myself, like, wow. Like, you know, you definitely want a good, nice, courteous, loving, you know, person with good responsibility. But if you look around at the mass insanity that's just is, like, how do you keep your kid from going into that? They don't do what everybody else does, which as a parent is hard.
Hard,
you're the asshole who's
it's
like
hard to be the gatekeeper.
Yeah, dude. Like, oh my God, you know, talk about like how hard it is to raise kids. It just takes it to another level. It's like, oh, now I got to be that guy. Now I got to find other kids whose parents, when I can't find, where are they? Where are these other parents that are going to be cool with this? Whose kids will be like this as well? And how am I going to organize this? It's a lot of work,
right,
but
it's like you're ostracizing them on some level. If it's not, they're not like fitting into like the mold that's in their area.
Yeah, but I mean, again, she said like that's
there's so much though room and time for that. Like that's really what the realization that Katrina and I came down to, and why we like removed the iPad completely. It's like, especially after hearing Jordan talk about 2 to 4 is like most crucial time. Like that is when they're piecing all that together.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was so easy. We removed it, like, and it hasn't been back now. It's like it's been like gone. Like it's an afterthought now of needing it or wanting it, because we've already replaced it enough with back to interacting and playing so much.
So you know what's funny is we use television occasionally. I'd say every day Aurelius will watch between 15 to 45 minutes of TV, and it's usually with us. So we'll put it on and we make sure to interact with him when he's watching something, like, oh, look what happened or whatever. And he's got like 4 favorite cartoons, and we'll use it to like when we're cooking or whatever. So, hey, when we're cooking dinner, you can watch TV, but we can also on our TV put it on YouTube and pull up a video, or he's had an iPad in the car on a plane before, right? Yeah. You ever seen a kid, like a 2-year-old with YouTube, they do?
We do not allow him.
No.
YouTube is an absolute...
He won't watch one video.
No, because
he goes next.
We were talking about this last night. The reason why YouTube is so bad for kids, is like it's like handing a kid TikTok. You may as well give him TikTok then, because it's built that way. It's built to be these short, quick, addictive.
He won't even watch a full. I could put the same movie on YouTube.
They've gotten so
good.
The
things underneath.
Yes, at the algorithm of suggesting the next thing, because of the algorithm, and so it will pull them in.
Literally, I could put Cars on TV. He loves that movie. Or I could find Cars on YouTube. If it's on YouTube, because of the suggestions on the bottom, he has to click, click, click,
Katrina
click.
Realized, Katrina recognized this. In fact, she got mad at me yesterday because I was watching the TV and I was watching through YouTube. And she's like, take it off YouTube.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm right here. I'm watching with it. She's like, I don't care. I don't want him on YouTube at all. He's not allowed, because when he gets on YouTube, she's like, it's the only time I have ever had a hard time pulling him away.
Yep.
Because and I'm like, wow, talk about how good of a job they did on that algorithm.
They made cigarettes.
Human psychology.
Yes, they've made cigarettes.
Yes.
It's so funny that we think, you know, here's the other thing that we got to consider with this kind of stuff is we think, okay, addictive things are bad because they do bad things to you. But the fact that they're addicting by itself is also not good for you. Okay. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that poisons you for it to be bad. The fact that it's addicting and the behaviors that encourages is bad in and of itself. So that's what we noticed. Like literally, my son's 2. He's 2.5?
That's when we pieced it together.
Yeah.
When he was 2 years old, we had let him watch.
He won't watch more than 30 seconds of a video.
Coco Melon or one of those shows on YouTube, and because of the suggestions, it just kept.
I know. I didn't even realize, because YouTube is YouTube, but then I was watching my eldest son's behaviors with it too, because he watches YouTube quite a bit. But he's like, well, I don't do TikTok, Dad. Don't worry. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. But they have YouTube Shorts.
Yeah,
it's the same. I was like, I looked at, what is the difference?
It's not.
There's no difference.
It's literally the same thing.
No, we're not doing that.
It's literally like the same thing. The algorithm is built almost identical to keep you going in and going in. That's why you'll go in to research a history question you have. The next thing you're watching cats dance, 2 hours later.
You can't tell me that that's not like patterning just impulsive behavior.
No, it's brilliant. It's like from a
short-term, like fixed.
Entertain.
From a business capitalist mindset, it's brilliant the way they created it. But it really, you have to, as parents and as consumers, not just parents, forget like be careful yourself. Like,
I mean,
you absolutely can go down.
I go back and forth.
Even the reels for like Instagram now. I'm like, oh no.
Listen, full disclosure. I deal with it. I go back and forth all the time. I go through a period where I put my phone up on we have these like little things where we put the phones on the wall, or I put it on the counter, and then I'll find it slowly creeping back into my hand, and I'm on it. My wife calls me out. Oh, got to put it. It's like, holy cow. Yeah. And I'm like trying to be
lightning in a bottle, man.
Somewhat aware. And the other challenge of it is, as a parent, it's hard to be a parent mostly, or a lot, I should say, because your kids need constant attention, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when they're little. Yeah. So it's like, you got to do stuff. What do I do? Here, put this in front of him and watch what happens. And then he's just on his own, and I don't have to worry about him screaming or crying or whatever. Mm-hmm. Man, and those dopamine hits over and over again. You know what happens to the brain when it's flooded with dopamine over and over again? It becomes desensitized to it. It actually changes the way it's molded.
Sure.
So it's really crazy. But yeah, we were not aware of this with my older kids. This wasn't something even people talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, you could look at it and say, well, maybe it's not good, but it's not like it is now. So yeah, you're right. There's a whole generation.
No, the argument back then was you either adopted it or didn't, and probably what a lot of parents thought, which I could have easily fallen in that too, is like, man, I don't want my kid to not be able to use these tools.
Well, I thought of it like, I used to watch TV. What's the big deal? It's way different than television.
Yeah, yeah.
Even TV is not the same as it used to be. Go on TV today and there's 500 channels.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, there was 3 channels. Yeah. And one of them had probably something.
You had to be there at the time that it was programmed, or it's like you miss it, right? And so there was like this understanding, and it wasn't like so much that you were sort of like choosing your own adventure every single time.
Yeah, all these things I tell you. I mean, this is all the stuff that we were talking last night about. I was actually talking to Steve about this because he was a little bit younger. His daughter is 12 or 13 now, so that would put him in his late 20s, I think, when he had his kid. And I'm like, because he was watching me with Max, here I have somebody over. It's a business relationship, very important conversation and time we're spending in the next 2 days. And I guess it's the older dad in me. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I come home, I change into my sweats. It's my time for my son. Like, so I spent no time with him in the afternoon. He got to watch me play with Max the entire time. And figured you and I,
or he could play with you guys.
And so
pass me the blocks.
But I mean, that's also the older dad in me. The 30-year-old me who was as ambitious or more than today, I think that I would have, been telling Katrina like, "Oh, take him," or "Tell him to go do this," or "Leave me alone, Max. I'm trying to do this." Where I'm so aware of that, where I don't know if I would have that awareness as a 20-something.
Dude, I feel guilty, bro, because I have such a gap between my 4 kids that I was not nearly as aware as a younger dad, especially because I worked all the time, and then there was a period when I went through divorce, and I don't have them all the time. Like, I am so much better with my younger kids. There's just like whole like guilt that I deal with half the time, where I'm like, fuck, man, did I like, damn, I was not as good. Like, this sucks.
It's a struggle. It's always a struggle to look back, like that. Yeah. Especially when you're like paycheck to paycheck, you're just really trying to take yourself out of a hole. But yeah, I mean, just paying attention, like you see immediately what that, what benefit that provides your kid, like in their behavior. It's just like so clear.
I feel like we see it right now. I mean, Katrina, I think I told you guys this off air. I don't think I brought it up on here, but, or maybe I did. When I talked about the like proud moment as a dad because my kid's like all popular and shit like that,
Yeah.
But after hearing the Jordan Peterson talk, I really feel like, that's why. Like, we did such a good job of playing with him so much and teaching him that like every day, that when he got integrated into society, like everybody loves playing with him because he got to practice that. He got to practice it so much.
Skill.
And he's well liked. He doesn't play overly physical, so he doesn't hurt other kids and stuff like that. He's nice. He knows how to share.
He knows how to play.
Considerate. He invites you.
Yeah,
all those things.
And so then you see when he walks up, and all these kids are wanting to play with him. You're like, the original feeling is like, oh, cool, my kid's popular, cool. But then that listening to that conversation with Peterson, I go, oh man, that's really that playing out, is that because we put that work in with them, he was able to integrate into society, even as a younger kid, right? Because we had him in school really early and be, accepted, right? And that's another thing that's I was really nervous about as a dad, was putting him, because his speech was behind. And when you have a kid who can't communicate with a bunch of other kids who can, like a lot of times they get into a lot of fights and stuff like that because the kid can't use his words. And that was like at the beginning when he first got there, he would cry because he couldn't talk to the other kids and tell him how he felt or what he wanted. And so there was a part of me that was really nervous about like, man, like my son's behind on his speech and we're integrating him with all these other kids who can already kind of communicate. Is he going to have a really rough time with that? And shit, he made out just fine, So
dude, speaking of our kids, I tell you, I am like so blessed to have you guys as my kids' uncles, because my 2-year-old seems to have some athletic ability. I don't know.
It is not a
super intuitive.
For sure. Does.
Oh,
dude.
so I was the reason why I'm saying that is because I am not into conventional sports. So I'm like, this kid, who's gonna teach him how to play this game? So we go to the store. We're at the store, and we were buying something. I don't remember what it was. And we go by the toy section. I said, hey, pick out a toy. And he goes, I want the bat. I'm like, the bat? Do you even know what a bat is? Like, I never brought a bat. I'm like, all right. So I bought him a bat and this little like foam ball or whatever. And he's like, oh, I want to hit the ball. So he must have seen this somewhere. I don't know where.
Yeah.
So I throw the ball to him and he freaking connects. He connects probably 20% of the time. He's 2 years old. Okay. So I take a video. I showed you guys. I'm like, you guys are going to have to help this kid as he gets older. Got him a T-ball set up or whatever all day today.
Bro,
Jessica's sending me videos.
His swing is better than your pitch to him.
Yeah.
I watched the video. It sounded like this trying to get the pitch down right there. The kid's just like, crank. Yeah, dude. Yeah. He was born to play, bro. You could tell. I mean, that's what I was itching for so bad.
Isn't there? Is there like no cousin, uncle, somebody that you're like, oh yeah, they were like destined for athletics?
It must be Jessica's side.
Well, Jessica's side, but I'm wondering, there's got to be at least.
See, Jessica didn't really play a lot of sports growing. She did as a little kid, but not a lot. But obviously, she's physically gifted. She decided to do the silks when she traveled with Cirque, when she worked for them, and she was able to do that within a. So she's got those gifts. She'll say she doesn't, but yeah, right. Anyway, honey, you are. I'm not at all. I did combat sports and I enjoyed that, but
see, now do you believe though that like, okay, and I can't remember where I read this, but that because you had a kid now versus when you like that you've developed this better mind muscle connection, like you've changed like some of your makeup that influences it? That influences it?
Changing DNA, I think you're right. Like I've heard that before.
Yes.
Like, later on in life, if you transfer that. Like,
bro, I'd been working out forever with all my kids.
But where you are right now versus where you were at 22 is a huge difference.
I mean, I don't know.
Huge difference.
The thing is, I never really played a lot of those sports organized. I just didn't. I did judo, wrestling, that kind of stuff. But it's just funny to see him be like attracted to.
I love it.
Your Uncle Justin and Adam.
The irony just is the best.
Yeah, he's
I'm so gonna have sports the nerd ball champion.
Read
That's all right. We'll bring him over. We'll play with their kids. Hey, come here. Come back.
Speaking of that, I was actually getting a little bit. I was a little frustrated. Also, too, it was fun. Like, so Courtney decided, like, hey, you haven't done one of these like crazy parkour videos in forever,
bro. Best video ever.
And, like I used to do. Like people didn't realize, I guess, like a long time ago, maybe like 2 years.
Oh my God, longer than that.
Longer than that, probably. Yeah, maybe like 5 years ago. I used to just do these dumb, like just full on run sprints, like and like try and like do an obstacle course out of wherever I was.
Grown man injuring himself, doesn't care. Like I just went for it, and it was always to be silly and ridiculous and like not. Like I'm not showing off my athletic prowess. Okay, I just have to like put that out there. It's like I had some, there's always like a few turds in there, like in the comment section. That's not parkour.
Oh, dude, like I thought you were the mobility guy, and like you're athletic. Like look at you, you can't even. Anyways, so I gotta address.
Did you really get that?
Yeah, there was a few.
I didn't even see.
Well, I deleted one of them. It just pissed me off so much.
I can't really do that. I didn't see.
Yeah,
I didn't see anybody like that.
He was being a shit just to be a shit. And like, I'm like, look, dude, I was doing it to be silly and joking, but anyway, I was just having fun, and like obviously it's inspired by kind of like an Office, if you've seen that episode, it was kind of like some semblance of that. So yeah, what was funny about it was the first run I did was so fast and like explosive that like Courtney couldn't keep up with me and like dropped the phone and like didn't work. And so we didn't even get the cut. And so I did all this stupid stuff and like that's where I got all bruised up and like scratched up and all this. Like I jumped off the very end and like rolled all the way down the hill and everything. And like, anyways, so the second one was actually like sort of the tamed down version.
Oh, so we didn't even see the best one?
No. But it's inspiring me to put out something athletic just so I can say, hey,
no, bro.
The old man still got
Fuck
it. Dude.
the two weirdos that say dumb stuff.
Wait, hold
like
on.
that.
What are you gonna do?
I like the more fun.
I'll show you.
When you
is
did
this
that
a
with
surprise?
back when we were messing with liquid death and stuff, that's where I remember you first started. Dude, I have to tell you guys, I forgot about something. Courtney is sitting here texting me right now. And about one of the properties and the landscaping. I don't think you guys know this. Doug definitely knows this. This fool. So we have a landscaper that's fixing up one of the properties in Idaho up right now. This dude mailed a $450,000 check for a $450 job.
Wait, hold on. What?
Joe, we had a gardener. It was going to cost us $450 to get the land up because we're getting ready to re-rent another property in Idaho. Okay, our tenants are out. We're going to re-rent again. So every time that happens, we clean up everything.
Okay,
it's going to cost us $450 to mow the lawns.
Sure.
Doug mailed a $450,000 check.
Doug.
Oops.
Thank God the gardener has integrity and says
he literally has a green thumb right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big mistake, obviously. It would have bounced, okay? It would have bounced.
See, I knew this. I didn't even give Doug a hard time yet. I was
I was hoping you guys wouldn't find out. But hey, that was one happy gardener for about 5 seconds.
So, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I was just probably writing some checks and we were doing some transfers between companies and I don't know, I just slipped a comma somewhere and
Yeah, but you still have to write underneath it. That's $450,000, Doug.
He did.
So there's like multiple mistakes here.
I'll blame it on like secondhand smoke or something like that.
Right. I died laughing when I said
$450K.
I'm like, I told Katrina, I was like, did he accidentally write $4,500? Like he was like
sculptures.
She's like, no, $450,000. Dude, thank God.
Is it diamond lawn?
Thank God the gardener was like, had some integrity. And
now, what happens with something like that? If you make a mistake like that,
first off,
could they take the money and then you'll never get it back? Like, could that potentially happen?
Well, the check has to clear first off.
Well, let's just say it did.
Okay.
Let's say all that happened.
Why wouldn't it? Oh, you out of investments?
So yes. So the account had nowhere near that much money in it. Number one. Number
Thank God it was
two.
that one.
You take a check for that amount to your bank. Typically, there's a clearing time.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like instantaneous.
And get clearance and all that stuff.
However, it could have ended badly.
Yeah.
I suppose.
This reminds me of
24 hours
the Kevin Hart bit where he's like, you see, the way I have my bank account set up is like, you don't remember that part?
No.
Okay, never mind. It's going to fall flat then. It's going to fall flat. It's like a whole bit.
Let's just say going forward, I'm going to be a lot more mindful when I'm writing checks. So sometimes I'm like, we're trying to get out the door. Something's going, I need a check for this. It's like, writing checks, $450,000. That seems like reasonable.
It was an honest mistake. I thought it was hilarious.
That's funny, Doug. Nothing happened.
It was his check for his adrenochrome that he gets every
Okay, Sal. Just for the record here, folks, I do not do adrenochrome, okay? I just want to let you know that. This is all a myth.
His youth elixir, his black market youth elixir,
We did find a nice filter, though. Andrew was behind the helm.
The youth elixir people got a $450 check. That's not enough. That's not enough for one.
The company is called Gardner.
It's called Gardner.
Oh my God.
Isn't that funny?
Wow.
Yeah, it died.
Hey, speaking of properties, how's the Park City one doing?
Doing good.
What's his name? Was
Steve Cook just stayed there. Yeah, Steve went up there last week. In fact, after he stayed up there, I think there was a good, 8 or 9 inquiries from him posting about this. He loved it. I mean, he was just like, dude, this is epic what you guys
so glad everything was working for him. Yeah.
I know, like that's what's cool now. I feel better about talking about it on the show now because we finally got it literally felt like it took a year to get everything in there. And of course, the one thing that we built and put together was the thing that didn't work.
Well, you knew that was going to happen, right? It's just it's just how it works.
Of course. So everything works there. Everything is set up at that place. Like, Yeah, he said it was just
so the sauna has got the rocks in it. Does that mean you could throw water on it too?
Yeah, it has a little scooper so you can pour water, make it steam. So it's like steam / sauna.
Yeah.
Like, and then,
we didn't even get to experience it. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
we built it. Didn't work.
Well, we have yet to go. I've even all the times I've been there, I still haven't even yet to go experience it.
Wow.
We have been building it, and so every trip out there has been work, buying furniture, putting things together, like planning, like.
Well, you know what's been cool too is seeing some of the videos where they actually went through all of our recommendations, and we're like, oh yeah, this was great.
All the restaurants and stuff.
Yeah, like it's cool to see they, took the time to go through all that.
Well, and that's the goal for us. Like, so partly why I want us to go out there and just go experience is so we can build on that list, right?
Yeah.
It's like where we go out there and it's
keep
like,
adding things in there.
Yeah, we're gonna go there for 3 days and let's go do more things and see what else is cool to do on here. But yeah, it was cool to see that, to see the people that stayed up there that actually like did everything on the list and enjoyed all the food. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's
awesome.
I mean, I'm gonna give it a year to build this thing, right? Like anything else, of course, I want it to be cranking and super successful for us in the first year. But the reality of it is, like, you have hiccups, you have setbacks, we don't even have the photos and videos of it updated, So I think when you go to mindpumpparkcity.com, I think it looks all right. I don't even think it gives the full feel of like how cool of a house it really is, because they're like the original photos. So, you got to give it a while for people to go experience it, build the reviews up. So I predict by this winter coming up, it'll be hard to get into. It'll be cranking like that. So,
good deal. Yeah. Hey, I wanted to tell you guys about a cool area of research around CBD and cannabinoids. They've been looking at it now for a while, or looking at these compounds. These are found in the hemp plant, right? To protect the brain during or from trauma. So they do studies where they'll give rats a stroke and then see what the effects are on their.
That's so messed up. Okay.
I know, it's too soon. What we do to rats. And when the rats have CBD before and after, the effects on their brain function is largely protected.
Wow.
Yeah. So why is this research good? They're looking at it for professional athletes in sports, like football players, soccer players, people that there's lots of head impact where they could be using. Yeah, they could use hemp, cannabinoids. So not marijuana, so no THC, the other cannabinoids, so you're not high, to help protect against those kind of repeated traumas.
Any neurogenesis attached? Because I know, like, for me, I felt the impact of CBD, way years later, right? Like I'm still been on this like quest to regain a lot of memory recall and really help in that direction. And CBD was like the start of that for me. It really did start. I felt like a physical difference. Yeah.
CBC has been shown to stimulate neurogenesis. That's another cannabichromine, I think is the name. Okay. It's a cannabinoid also found in the hemp plant.
What do you think of this prediction? Do you think that in the near future, we will start to see it infused into multivitamins? It becomes like a daily vitamin thing.
Maybe for specific types of multivitamins where they're like, anxiety or pain or maybe memory, they'll throw it in there. I could see it. I don't know about a general multivitamin.
I mean, I still feel like a general all that would still apply. Like, who would not want less stress and anxiety? Who would not let something that's neuroprotective? Who would not want?
That's a good question. Yeah,
why would it make it into a general multivitamin? I mean, that seems like it would be. And there's enough research now around it that there's no adverse effects to it. Like there's.
I mean, it's definitely if you take real cannabinoids, you do feel good. So you do notice something. It's not like because I know there's a lot of crap out there. You'll take it, and you don't notice anything. Like the company where we work with, Ned. If you take a dose of their product, you'll feel it in 45 minutes. You'll feel like good. You just feel good. You're not high, but you definitely, notice something. They also show in studies that the way that it works on pain is not just through the anti-inflammatory effects. We used to think, it reduces pain because it just reduces inflammation. No, it does that. Plus it also acts on the part of the brain that processes pain. So you actually perceive the pain less as well. Different than opiates. So it's so interesting. Really interesting. It's a pretty interesting, science, and it's exploding because the endocannabinoid system is so
Well, the market's still exploding, right? I think the last time we talked about Ned, didn't we bring up the growth of it? We were trying to speculate on if it was still on the rise or it was plateauing. It was something ridiculous, right?
It's exploding.
More than I thought.
Yeah, cool. Do we have a shout out?
I do. I want to shout out we shouted out last time. You shouted out the guy, the Irish guy, right? The immigrant.
Oh, there he is.
I want to shout out the other guy, Pat, who was the first speaker. I know you didn't get to hear all of him, but his stuff was fire.
Patrick Lencioni.
Yes, Patrick Lencioni. I actually think he was the best speaker. So he was
you could tell he's done numerous like speeches. He was like really good. Yeah.
Yes. What's his that's his Instagram.
So his Instagram is Patrick Lencioni, which is spelled Lencioni, and then his underscore. He also has
So I bought one of his books. I can't remember what was the name of the book that I bought. I have to look it up. I think you did too.
The 5 Dysfunctions of Team is one of his books. He's got a podcast called At the Table.
Okay.
But the guy's, in front of the group, he was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Great stories, super great engagement with the audience.
Oh, I'll totally listen to his podcast. I didn't know you had a podcast.
And amazing information.
Awesome. Organifi is a company that makes organic supplements for health, wellness, and performance. One of my favorites is their natural pre-workout called Peak Power. It gives you crazy energy, but you're not overstimulated. You're calm and focused and strong. Check it out. Go to Organifi.com/mind pump. That's ORGANIFI.com/mind pump. Use the code mind pump and get 20% off. All right, back to the show.
Our first caller is Kara from North Carolina.
Hi, Kara. How can we help you?
Hi, nice to meet you guys.
Same.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so appreciative, really.
Yeah, no problem. So what's going on?
So I had a question. I'll just read my question so I don't get lost. And if you have any questions about like my background, please let me know. So I'm about to start a MAPS program. I want to know how to maximize my nutrition while doing the program. If my goal is to work out for longevity, is it important to bulk and cut and go through phases, or is it healthier to be more stable throughout the year? Additionally, how important is it to hit your protein targets? I love intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating, and I don't really want to give that up, but I do have a really hard time hitting my protein and not feeling grossly overfull. So I just kind of wanted to see if you have any advice or thoughts on what's more important to prioritize for longevity, and then to also potentially not sacrifice building muscle.
Oh, good question. Yeah. Okay. So real quick, there's a myth that you could eat in a way, like we talk about maintenance calories, right? So eating at maintenance. The reality is you're never really at maintenance. The reason why somebody's body maintains is because they are in a surplus and a deficit, and it tends to balance out. That's really all it is, okay? Now, is that better than going through periods of bulking and cutting? If the bulking and the cutting are extreme, yes. But if the bulking and the cutting is not extreme, then you're probably better off going through periods of eating in a little bit of a surplus and in a little bit of a deficit, because there's benefits to both, right? The surplus tells your body you're safe, you're not under a lot of stress, you can get stronger, you can be fertile, your hormones can balance out. The cut tends to get you a little leaner. There's some longevity benefits to that as well, but it is a little bit of a stress on the body. And humans didn't evolve. We evolved that way. We went through periods of, feast and famine, right? So you're better off, kind of changing your goals and trying to build and then trying to get a little leaner. And if you want to do it for longevity, I wouldn't go extreme in any one of those directions. Now, as far as fasting and time-restricted eating, that's not a longevity practice. I know a lot of people advertise it.
They sell it like that.
They sell it that way, but really if you're looking at the health benefits of fasting and time-restricted eating, the health benefits come from the fact that you're in a calorie deficit, really. If you compare two groups of people, one is a calorie deficit, one is a calorie deficit, or the other is calorie deficit, one does time-restricted eating, the other one doesn't, the benefits are almost identical. The only difference would be maybe the psychological potential benefits of fasting. That's why spiritual practices will use them. Now, I will say this, with restricted eating and fasting, women tend to be far more sensitive to the stresses of going long periods without food than men, okay? So I've seen women who didn't even eat in a calorie deficit but do fasts that were too long, it would cause them to lose their periods or have hormone imbalances. So from a longevity standpoint, I wouldn't even practice it. And if you do, I would look at it as more of a spiritual practice, and I would save it for like, every 3 months, do like a 24-hour or 48-hour fast type of deal from that standpoint.
Do you have any idea? You mentioned that hitting protein is difficult for you. Do you have any idea about how many grams a day you hit right now?
I would say anywhere from like 30 to like 100.
Yeah.
So I would definitely feel like I'm not like consistent with it, but I would say my time restricted eating is very extreme. So I usually eat between like 3 and 6.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for me to like eat a lot of protein in like 3 hours.
There's no way. I mean, look, why are you restricting your time to such a short window?
Because I have done a lot of like reading about like fasting, and it was something that I came across that I thought like letting your body like rest from digestion. Like I heard, or what I read was that it would have a lot of good benefits on your brain and like just a lot of benefits in general, because because your body doesn't have to constantly be working to digest whatever you just ate.
Yeah, this is why I hate our space so bad. Yeah. It's all wrong. I mean, there's some truth to it, but you're not doing yourself a favor by actually what you're doing right now. I'll tell you, is you're actually teaching yourself to restrict and binge. Is what it sounds like, because then you got 3 hours to hit 100 grams of protein. In your question, it says that you feel grossly overfull. So does that feel like a healthy? Let me ask you this: does it feel like a healthy behavior to go from one extreme to the other every day?
No.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But I do like the feeling in the morning of like of being in a fasted state. Like you're very like alert. So I'm kind of worried about giving that up.
Do you know where that's coming from?
Where it's coming from?
Yeah. Why you feel that way?
No, I don't know why.
So in the morning, cortisol spikes. It's supposed to. It's an energy kind of stress hormone. And the longer you fast, the higher and the longer you get that cortisol spike, until you start to develop some resistance to cortisol, which, that can look like hormone imbalances. It could look like loss of libido, energy crashes, and stuff like that. Right. So you said interesting. Are you noticing some of that?
A little bit, but like I did just recently stop taking birth control. So I would say a lot of my hormone changes, I would have said it was because of that. But now hearing you say this, I'm wondering like maybe if like I have tried to eat a little bit more the past like couple weeks, and like some of that has come back. So maybe that's why as well.
Yeah. Here's the other thing too. When you're taking birth control, you're masking your body's signs to an extent. So you may feel the negative effects of this restricted eating more now that you're off birth control. So I would tell you to stop doing what you're doing, and you can eat breakfast, but make it a protein meal, make it a protein fat meal. You'll still feel good. You're not going to get any of that insulin, ups and downs, and go ahead and eat throughout the day, and start and go back to your training and see how you feel. I bet you're going to start to feel a little bit better, a little bit more balanced as a result, and hit those protein targets.
Yeah, and have you had issues with digestion before? Is that something that kind of led you in that direction, or?
Exactly. Yeah, okay. I have like really slow like mobility and like IBS. So like that was something that helped a lot, was limiting when I ate, because like gives my body time to digest.
Yeah. So I think the smaller meal kind of strategy, and like what Sal said in the beginning with getting your protein in first thing, it's going to help with that. But I mean, obviously cutting it off like around 6 or, before bed, I know for me too, is a huge thing in terms of digestion and like that interrupting your sleep patterns as well.
I'm glad you asked that, Justin, because I'm going to give you an analogy to kind of explain what's going on, right? So it's like I sprained my ankle, okay? So I stopped walking, and guess what? My ankle doesn't hurt anymore. Did I solve the problem? Right? No.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have digestive issues, not eating is going to feel better, because you have
Yeah.
digestive issues.
Right.
So it didn't fix the problem though. So what might happen once you start eating more regularly is those digestive issues are going to start to potentially come back.
Yeah.
I would recommend that you work with a functional medicine practitioner, get your gut tested, and see if there's some dysbiosis, if there's something you need to change or add. Because you are going to feel better by not eating if you have gut issues, but that doesn't mean that the problem is solved. And then you'll run into other problems as well. And the gut issues will resurface. I'm speaking from personal experience until you treat the root. So I'm glad you asked that, Justin.
At the bare minimum, become more aware of what foods versus just food in general, right? So like you'll probably find as you start to introduce more meals that you will start to notice this again, but be aware of it's not necessarily food in general, but a food that you're introducing that might be causing the problems. Obviously, if you work with a expert, they're going to help you navigate through this and figure this out. But the bare minimum, even if you're not hiring an expert, you should at least be paying attention like that for yourself, maybe making notes. Well, when I eat this type of food or when I pair these foods together, it just feels like it sits like a rock. And so you can become more aware of those things. But I think it's really important that you get your protein intake. It definitely is important if you're going to build some muscle. That low of protein intake while also lifting, you're getting the benefits of, burning calories, moving around, stuff like that. But for the body to adapt and build muscle, it's going to need somewhat of a surplus and some protein in order to do that. So for those, and then also and I don't know what your plans are for the future of having family and kids and stuff like that. I mean, you're going to want your body in that healthy state for you to have regular menstrual cycles also.
Yeah. Kara, are you in our functional medicine, the holistic health group on Facebook?
Holistic Health.
No, but I have heard about it a lot.
All right. Let's get you in there so you can start to talk to people in there and see if you end up working with the functional. Now on just generally speaking, okay? So I'm going to give you some general advice. This is not specific whatsoever, but it may help. When you start to eat throughout the day, avoid the major offenders. So I would avoid gluten. I would avoid processed sugars, dairy. Start there. So go no dairy, no gluten, processed sugars. Make sure your fiber intake is adequate, but don't get your fiber from gluten-containing foods. So like a good breakfast would be like, protein, like eggs with some meat and some berries. So now you got your fibers, got some carbohydrates, and you've got your proteins. You can also add psyllium husk to your meals with a full glass of water if low motility is your issue. But get in that group because they'll help you out. But not eating when you have gut issues does feel better, but it's not solving the issue.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I'm honestly like really surprised by this answer, but it's like very informative because I feel like there's a lot of like trend right now on intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
So I really thought you guys were going to be like, oh yeah, you can do that, but
No.
also
I mean,
just eat
we wrote a book on it, right? We wrote a whole guide on intermittent fasting, and it does have some benefits to it. But again, that's case by case, and the way most people are using it, I think we don't advocate for. I think that it's better. I would never use it with a client like you. I loved using it for like my competitors that were like orthorexic. They couldn't miss a meal. They'd eat 6 to 8 meals every day, and they would freak out if they missed one meal. I would teach them how to intermittent fast to show them that, look, this is not only not going to hurt your body, it's probably going to help you. And so for that person, I like it. Somebody like you, I don't see a lot of value in it. And it doesn't mean you can't keep some things. Like I know Sal suggested the morning breakfast. I think I agree with that. But I mean, just opening up your eating window 2 to 4 more hours would also be a good start. It would be a good place to move in that direction of getting to that place to where you eventually will be eating a breakfast in the morning and throughout the day. So there are some benefits to meal skipping sometimes too. So.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, I think you should start eating breakfast. I think what's going to start to happen is you're going to start to notice side effects like your hair, your nails.
It's a good balancing hormone effect.
Yeah, so I would say eat that protein breakfast with some berries for the fiber is where I'd go. But go in that group, okay?
I will.
All
Thank you. And I will say, I got the seed. It's incredible. So thank you for advertising that.
You got it, man. Thank you so much. I know what that feels like. It's like, oh, I'm just not going to eat. I feel way better now.
Yeah.
You're not solving
Yeah, totally. Yeah. When you have that difference, that complete contrast, it's like, oh, I should be doing this the whole time, and you just gave yourself a rest.
Well, such a great analogy you gave with the sprained ankle and the walking, because eating, you're gonna need to walk. Yeah, it's like, are you gonna not walk the rest of your life? You're gonna not eat the rest of your life? Of course, I'm going to do those things. And so it's like, oh, I guess when you put it that way, I'm not really solving the problem. I'm just avoiding using what I need to use.
And what happens when you don't eat is all the bacteria in your gut gets somewhat starved. It doesn't disappear, but it goes down because it's not being fed. So then you feel better because the overall bacterial load is lower. But then you start feeding yourself and it starts to come back again. You're like, oh, I guess I shouldn't eat. That's not really the issue. But I think the big thing here to pay attention to is just how terrible our space is. They'll take some truth,
facepalm,
and then we called it. We called it when fasting became a thing. We called it. We said, "Oh, they haven't figured out a way to sell this yet, but they're going to, and it's going to become a trend, and people are going to do." And it's exactly what happened. So, be wary of anything that the fitness and health space just sells as the panacea.
I wonder.
Of health.
I wonder too is if she wasn't taking birth control, if she would have already noticed signs of like losing her period early on by those that small of an eating window, that low of protein intake, and she looks like she was really lean.
Yep.
I bet she probably wouldn't even have been having her period on a regular basis if she was continuing to eat like that.
Our next caller is Marco from California.
Marco, what's happening? How can we help you?
Hey guys, so I kind of have a question about calories and protein. So nice to meet you guys. I've kind of been new to you guys since February. You guys actually helped me a lot physically. I've lost like 60 pounds so far.
Wow.
And just listening to you guys kind of have helped me like a little bit mentally too, just hearing you guys talk. But to get into the question, so I'm type 2 diabetic. I've worked with my physician and nutritionist, and they've recommended a keto diet. I kind of took it a little too far. I went a little more into ketovore, where almost all my food is straight up meat. The only bit of carbs I take is from my supplementary protein shakes. So because of that, I get about 190 to 200 grams of protein a day, but my carb intake's about 10 to 20 grams. But I do supplement with electrolytes. I have stuff that I'm working with my nutritionist to make sure my nutrition isn't going down. I'm not like down on that stuff, but my main issue is because of my diet, I'm only eating about 1,000 calories a day. I know I've heard about the stuff you guys said before, and that kind of is bad, but I don't feel hungry at all or anything. But I've been seeing like a lot of weight loss, and I've been getting a lot stronger. My bench went from a plate to 2 plates and 10. So yeah, I mean, like if I'm reaching my protein intake, does the calories really matter? Is my main question.
Okay, hold on a second. You're eating 1,000 calories a day, almost like around 200 grams of protein a day, and you're only having 10 to 20 grams of carbs. Are you eating like just like tilapia and pure white chicken breast?
Yeah.
Are you sure you're calculating your calories right? Like what kind
I'm
of
using chronometers, so everything like I'm putting it in, that's what it's telling me.
What kind of meat are you eating?
It just depends on the day. Like today I'm eating a boneless chicken leg meat. Sometimes I'll eat like carne asada. Sometimes pork, sometimes fish. I mean, I'm going based off what I weigh it out and everything, and that's what it tells me.
Okay, all right. So a couple things. Of course, you're losing weight because your calories are low. And number two, eating such a high. This is just for people listening. When you eat a lot of protein, it really does crush your appetite. So for people who aren't sure if that's true, it does. It'll definitely crush your appetite. Now, the other thing I'm going to say is I'm also going to make sure that the caveat here is that you are working with a physician and a dietitian. So nothing I'm going to say, if it's different from what they're saying, you go with what they're saying, okay? So let's just put that out there. But I would increase the amount of fat that you're eating to get some extra calories. That's all.
Yeah, I'm getting about 100 grams of fat a day.
Okay, so the math doesn't make sense.
Yeah, our math is off.
Your math is off. Something's wrong with what you're adding in there.
Yeah, you get 4 kilocalories. You get 4 calories alone. You'd be at almost 1,000 just from the protein.
Yeah, the protein. So let me
be like at 800 and something just from the protein.
Let me do the math for you, okay? If you're eating 200 grams of protein a day, that's 800 calories.
Right.
If you eat, let's say, 15 carbs, that's another 60 calories. And if you eat 100 grams of fat, that's 900 calories. There you're at 2,000 calories.
So I guess I'm doing something wrong there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It didn't make it, because I thought, man,
Yeah,
in order to do that, 200 grams of protein at 1,000 calories, you have to eat like
all whey protein
like,
shakes.
Yeah, like pure.
And you're still strong. I'm like, what?
Yeah, your calories are off there. I think you're not adding the fat in properly or something like that. So
It's basically whatever your protein intake is, times it by 4.
that's for the calories of protein.
That's just from calories of protein. So you're eating almost 1,000 calories from protein alone.
Yeah, and then the fat is 9 calories per gram.
Yeah.
And you said you're getting how many grams of fat a day?
100.
Well, for today, I've already done my math for today from what I'm eating. I'm at 160 grams of protein, so I'm gonna add some more chicken when I get home, and I'm at 80 grams of fat.
Yeah, you're definitely okay, bro. You're actually at a decent. I mean, you're still low calorie. So here's the one thing that I'll say. Like, you're fine. What you're doing, following a keto this way. You have a nutritionist that's paying attention to stuff. All that stuff is okay. Now, my only concern, if you're a client of mine, and what we would be talking about as we're training together, is this sustainable for you for a long period of like forever? Like, do you want to eat this way forever, where we just have, basically steak and meat and chicken and fish, like just protein all the time? And do you never see yourself introducing carbohydrates? And if that's the case, the things that I'd be concerned about is, okay, well, we're doing low calorie for such a long period of time, and all proteins and fats and no carbohydrates, knowing that one day you're going to want to reintroduce that stuff. And so that's where the challenge becomes there, is when we make that transition from eating the way you're eating now and then saying, hey, I want to be able to eat these other foods. At that point, this is where the real challenge kicks in. Yeah. So I would want to know from you, like, do you love eating this way, and is this how you want to eat forever?
I do like it, and I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I will eat some food here and there, like some tacos or like a sandwich. So I'm not like extremely super strict on it for the most part, but I am really strict at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. When did you get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes?
About 2 years ago, and then I started working with like an actual nutritionist like January. So I dropped most of the weight since January to now.
Is it pretty well controlled?
For the most part, yeah. I'm on insulin. I'm on metformin, and they even had me on Ozempic too.
Okay.
So it's pretty good right now.
Okay. Yeah, you're going to be okay at some point when you start reintroducing. You're building muscle. That's one of the best ways to improve insulin sensitivity. But I mean, your calories are higher than you think, and you're getting stronger now. It all makes sense. You're doing okay. At some point, when you want to start reintroducing carbohydrates, I would work with your nutritionist and monitor your blood sugar. But if you've built muscle and you've gone a while doing it this way, you're probably going to be okay, so long as you don't go off the deep end.
And so when I start introducing carbs again, should I be like lifting harder or slower, or
just keep lifting?
Doing more cardio?
Just keep lifting. Not do more cardio. Not do more cardio. That'll be the one no I say. So no, what I love to, when I have a client that I shift to a new diet, or we start increasing calories or carbohydrates to a new routine. So let's say you're following like our MAPS anabolic right now, seeing the great results in this cut, and they're like, okay, you and your nutritionist decide, I feel great, I've leaned out a bunch, now let's start, adding carbohydrates back in the diet, let's increase calories, let's start build some strength and more muscle. I would switch the program. I'd go to a new program, and any program, doesn't matter what it is. Could be strongman, could be split, could be any of our other routines, but just switching it to like a novel routine will benefit you, because you're now reintroducing more calories.
Are you following any of our programs now?
I've been looking at them. I just don't know which one to start with.
Okay.
I'm currently just doing PPL.
Oh, okay. I'm going to send you MAPS anabolic.
Okay.
That's the
that
one.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll have you do that one.
Okay. And then I know you guys talk about it. There's a bunch of rest days on that. Like, can I still like go to the gym on the rest days?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, you do trigger sessions on those days, and if you want to continue doing the cardio that you're doing, that's fine too. Just don't do a bunch.
Okay.
Don't add extra stuff.
Okay, I just do like half an hour on the treadmill.
That's fine. Yeah. That's totally fine.
Okay, cool.
All right.
All right.
Hey, one more
Sounds
thing.
good.
One more thing, Marco. If you want to make that cardio more effective for your diabetes, instead of doing 30 minutes on the treadmill, do 10-minute walks after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So still 30 minutes a day, but do it right after you eat, 10 minutes each time, and you'll actually get a better response. It'll.
Well,
Go ahead.
I actually started doing 2-a-days. So like I've been waking up at 4 a.m. to do my cardio because I haven't had time to do it after work.
Okay. Well, listen. If you split it up the way I said it, after your meals, it's going to be better off. And I'm going to give you one piece of just one warning. Okay. Don't go overboard because it sounds like you're trending towards a place where you're not going to be able to maintain.
Yeah, bro. Waking up at 4, eating only meat. That if you were my client, that's the only thing you and I are talking about right now. I'm celebrating the win right now.
It doesn't sound sustainable.
No. Is that my concern is everything's going smooth right now, and then some outside thing that has nothing to do with working out and fitness happens in our life to kind of throw a curveball. And then we don't just kind of fall off. We fall off the entire deep end. And then now we're like having a tough time getting back. So just be mindful of that. Just be mindful as you add things as exercise, nutrition into your routine. The idea of this stuff is that you can see yourself doing it forever. If you can see yourself getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and going for a run, 30 minutes, then fine. I'm not going to ever tell a client, don't do that. Very few people I know do that consistently forever. So as you add stuff into your lifestyle to help you get leaner, keep in mind, that's what you're going to need to do to stay there. So if you don't see yourself doing that forever, be cautious about just adding more and more to the routine.
Yeah, and also that doesn't mean you can't get there without doing those things either, because there's more effective ways. But unless you're like, do you work in the fitness industry? Do you want to be a trainer, or is this like your passion for the rest of your life?
No, I think it's more like I've been big most of my life. I'm kind of like the lightest I've been since like 15 years, honestly.
Yeah, that motivation is going to go away. Okay, so stop the 4 a.m. cardio. Just stop doing that and instead walk for 10 to 15 minutes after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's a much more sustainable approach. Much more. Waking up at 4 a.m. is not. And the motivation you have now, where you're like, oh my God, I'm not fat anymore, is going to go away. That's not going to stay with you forever. Trust me. So try to apply what I said, because you're already going down the wrong path.
It's going to manage his insulin better that way too.
It's going to be better all the way around.
It's better for you. It's better for everybody, but it's really better for you. I mean, you're going to notice a difference in your insulin spike. So just watch do what Sal's saying, and you'll see a better results.
Okay.
All right, man.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Marco. Thanks for calling in, bud.
Thank you. You guys have a good one.
You got
too,
it,
man.
All right. I really enjoy when people say things and you're like, what? And then you do the math, you're like, okay, that was wrong. Because otherwise, he sounds like
he's like a unicorn.
Well, it just sounds like you're breaking the laws of physics.
Starving. Yeah,
I mean, 1,000 calories a day,
and
I'm getting stronger and I'm losing weight. I'm like, wait a minute, let me do the math here, because this doesn't make any sense. No, he's eating closer to 2,000 or more.
That makes a lot more sense.
That's probably what he's eating.
Which is not crazy bad. It's still very low.
Sure.
Yeah. It's still very, very low.
Like he lost 60 pounds. That's not bad. Mm-hmm. That's not too bad. I wonder where he was at before, right?
Yeah, but here's the deal, though, okay? Cardio like crazy right now. Only meat.
Yeah, you're right.
Ozempic.
Yeah.
I mean, he's throwing the whole kitchen sink to get there. If this is my client, I'm scared to death of what happens when an outside force, we lose our job. Yeah. We have
you get hurt.
Someone passes away.
Yeah.
I get hurt. Something happens that throws you off your routine for a week or two.
Yep.
And you go off the deep end because all these things that you've built into your.
Actually, you mentioned the Ozempic. That's also suppressing his appetite.
Yes,
like you go off that,
double whammy.
Yeah, your appetite's going to go up.
So I just, Marco, caution you, brother, on the direction here. Again, the thing that we always talk about with, like, if he hired us, okay, I know he hired a nutritionist, and that their job is to, make sure nutritionally he's getting what he needs for the essential stuff, right? Well, our job is to think of something that this guy's going to be able to do sustainable and get him to his results. I'm still going to put this guy in a position to build muscle first.
Totally.
Which is still going to help him being a type 2 diabetic 100%.
Also. So it's the most impactful thing he'll do.
Yeah. So I'm gonna build. I'd rather build muscle on him, even though he probably hates being so big and having all that extra weight. I still know that that's going to benefit us in the long run, and he wouldn't have to do so much to get down to that weight.
Our next caller is Susanna from Maine.
Hi, Susanna. How can we help you?
Hi. Well, I have a question. I always learned that the breathing rule is to exhale on the exertion.
Yeah.
Inhale as you're not exerting. I recently at a personal trainer certification, the instructor said that's not always the rule. And when you're pulling something towards your torso, you want to inhale. Yeah. And then you would exhale the other way. And that just blew my mind. And I've tried it with lat pull downs. It feels really weird. Yeah. And he said it had to do with shoulder external rotation.
Yeah, he's right. Do you know why?
Okay.
Yeah, so when you do a row, how you want to expand your chest and stick your chest out, pull your shoulders back. It's hard to do while you breathe out. Mm-hmm. So breathing in brings the rib cage out, expansive, and it gives you more space to get that scapular retraction. Now, here's the deal with breathing. Okay, people overthink it.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
it's like this is like look at now you're like
and pass out.
Yeah, like now you're like thinking about what you got to do. Like naturally, what we do when we exert ourselves is we either hold our breath or we grunt, or we kind of like, right? So what's happening when we're breathing like that? We're breathing out, but we're doing it with a tense core, right? It's like, right? In martial artists or boxers will talk about either a ki, or you hear boxers do that, breathing type thing. They're breathing out with exertion while maintaining a tight core. The truth is, the only time I ever had to tell somebody to change their breathing was the client that
held their breath,
that just held their breath the whole time. And then I'm like, you got to start breathing, right? So it's over.
I used to have this spiel with my clients because this is such a common question. And when they'd ask me like, hey, I've heard this and I've heard that. And what are you supposed to do? I say, okay, you ready? Take notes. I'm going to tell you what you need to do. Breathe. Just fucking breathe. Like literally just breathe. Like and the reason why I would say this to them is that, for example, there's going to be times when we're training over the course of this year when I'm going to ask you to do a 10-second negative. What are you going to do? Breathe in for 10 seconds? No, of course you're not. You're going to end up probably taking 3 or 4 breaths. And there's going to be other times when I want you to do something explosive, real like that. And you're not going to breathe in and out in 1 second.
Or a max. You're going to hold your breath.
Yes. So
I think the only valuable thing to really focus on would be to be able to provide yourself with the type of like tensing core stability. So if you to take time in learning that and being able to maintain a nice tight core while you're still able to like inhale, get adequate amount of oxygen and breath work, but still be able to maintain that tightness. I mean, that's really like the main thing, especially when you're loading a lot of weight on your back.
No, it's a great point, Justin. And what he's explaining is your ability to draw your core in, right, and tighten up around that spine and brace while also I'm doing it right now, right? So I'm bracing my core, but I can still communicate, breathe, and talk. That's an important technique to be able to do that. And that's where I want my clients. I want you to be able to brace that core tight while also still be able to breathe and talk. Yeah. That's way more important.
Yeah. Susanna, how long have you been a trainer for?
Oh, a barrel. I'm not even.
Okay. You just getting started?
I'm just getting started. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so this seems like it's such an important topic. And as I was playing with it, it was like how I didn't feel braced as I was inhaling and pulling.
Yeah.
So that's I guess an art form.
It is, but so look, I'm glad you're a new trainer. So I'm going to tell you something, okay? When you're working on a client and you're training them and they have to focus on their posture and the muscle control and where they feel something and technique and form, and then you're going to tell them to focus on breathing, that's an automatic thing, you're going to mess them up. This is a big mistake a lot of new trainers do is they tell their client to focus on 50 different things, and the client's like, I don't know what to do. Grip the floor with your toes, squeeze your glutes, make sure you breathe right here, look over there. Like, okay, I even heard a trainer once tell a client, push your tongue to the roof of your mouth while you're doing this exercise because it activates some whatever muscle. And you could tell the client was just like, okay, I don't, it's like trying to teach somebody how to throw a ball and you tell them 50 different things.
Chew gum and pat yourself in the head.
Don't worry about the breathing unless you notice like it's an issue
unless
for them.
Not, yeah.
and then when you do focus on breathing with them, just breathe with them. That's the only time I would work with a client on breathing is when we were practicing full diaphragmatic breathing. We weren't doing exercises. I had them on the back, on the floor, make your belly rise before your chest, get that full diaphragmatic breath in. That's all we're focusing on because breathing is such an automatic thing that if you tell someone, like right now, if I tell you right now while we're talking to count how many times you blink your eyes, like look how self-conscious and weird you feel right now that you're thinking about blinking your eyes, something that's automatic, right? So I wouldn't do that while they're exercising unless you notice it's an issue. I wouldn't even mention it.
That's because I come from I'm a yoga instructor, kind of moving into this new world, which is amazing, fabulous new world. But breath has always been numero uno. So it's kind of now what?
So let's unpack that for a minute, right? When you're talking about yoga and I want to calm your central nervous system and relax and get in this meditative state, it does become very important.
Part of it.
It is a major process of getting you to calm down, relax the central nervous system, and get into those positions and to stretch and do that. When I'm strength training, less important.
Yeah.
It is not, I don't want you relaxed.
There's more bracing.
Yeah, there's more bracing and you being intense. So it isn't on a priority list. Now, does that mean there's not value in learning how to brace for like a 1 rep max and things like that? Yes, but the 99% of the clients you're going to be training, the number one thing you just need to look out for is them holding their breath.
Okay, so people
will hold their breath.
I'm so glad you said you're a yoga instructor, because it is extremely important for yoga, because you know that when you're in a position and you're challenging your body's range of motion and you feel like you're tight, and let's say you're in pigeon or something like that and your hip is stretching, our tendency is to hold our breath.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, holding your breath actually tells your CNS to activate your muscles. So you can't relax. My hips can't relax as I'm holding my breath. In that case, you want to do what's the opposite of what feels natural, which is breathe through the pain. Now, if I'm trying to lift a weight and I'm trying to activate the muscles on my hip, then you let me go ahead and embrace and do that with my breath. That naturally feels natural. I'm not trying to get you to relax your CNS in that particular case. So I think your practice with breathing is wonderful, and teach that to your clients through yoga positions.
Recovery and parasympathetic.
Yes, through yoga positions, through stretching, in between sets. I think that's phenomenal. In the sets, don't make it too much of a focus, because it'll throw them off.
All right. So great. That's so great advice. I'm so excited that that this question came up and that I've been exploring and that you guys are there. I'm really tickled to be part of your show. And
thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate your support.
Question.
I'm going to send you MAPS Prime Pro, because you're going to become a new trainer. I think that's a very valuable program for trainers.
Thank you. Yes, I'm tickled. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, thanks.
You know what? I always forget when you talk to new trainers, the stuff that you used to think was important.
Yeah.
You know?
That's such a common one.
Totally common.
I used to love to just like do that to clients like that.
It makes even more sense for coming from her yoga background, because that, like she said, this is like the first focal point.
Yep.
That you're trying to establish with people in the class.
I remember specifically learning that in yoga class, because I breathe for strength training, right? So I'm holding a stretch. And I'm like doing what I naturally do, which is brace.
Trying to push into it.
And the instructor goes, when you do that, you're telling your CNS to stay tight. And I'm like, oh, you're right. So I started breathing relaxed, and all of a sudden my muscles loosened up. Totally different. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I guarantee there's some trainers going to hear this and they're going to be like, you barking and saying how important it can be. If I'm learning or I'm teaching a client and we're like 1 rep max type bullshit, like we're going to put a little more emphasis on the.
You ain't doing that with a beginner though, right?
Yeah, no, you're not. I'm not 1 rep maxing with any of my clients.
Yeah.
So it's not something I'm going to teach somebody like that. And your point's perfect that they have so much they have to think about. It's like a golf swing, right? Like there's so many things that you're thinking about to just add another thing that really is not quite up there on the list, especially as long as they're doing it. If you are breathing and you're not holding your breath, you're fine.
And if somebody's lifting something heavy, they naturally will grunt. And what they're doing is they're breathing out with brace. That's what that is right there. So by the way, for gyms who tell people not to grunt, it's like you're messing people up.
Our next caller is Alex from Rhode Island.
Alex, what's happening, man? How can we help you?
How's it going? Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
What's up?
Just so my main question was, I've been pretty active. I'm 30 years old. I've been pretty active most of my life. I usually go to the gym 2 or 3 times a week. About a year ago, I got a diagnosis of scoliosis. In the past year, it's kind of been my main concern. I just want to get back to where I was about a year ago, but I guess I just don't know where to start or what direction I should be going on. Should I be focusing on like my imbalances with my back? Should I just work out as is? I'm just not sure. I don't know what direction I should be going in.
Good question. So how bad is the scoliosis?
Yeah, were you suffering from pain at all?
Did you just got diagnosed, so it must be kind of mild for you not to really see it till now?
Yeah, it's an S curve. They say like I got X-rays done, like no inflammation, no, like the structural integrity of my back is good, but I'm uncomfortable, and I don't know. Is this something I could like work past, or is this something I should?
You work with?
Yeah, you can. Okay, so I'm glad you asked this question. We actually get a lot of questions on scoliosis in our on our Instagram page. So there's some truth and then a little bit of myth behind how to train with scoliosis. So there's some truth in unilateral training being very valuable for people with scoliosis. The myth is that that bilateral training has no value. That bilateral training is wrong because of the person's scoliosis. You never want them to train both sides at the same time. The problem with that is that everyday life involves bilateral movement and lifting, and you will develop patterns that'll strengthen you lifting things bilaterally that are going to work for you in everyday life. And we don't want to shy away from those. So although it's not quote unquote balanced, it is going to be for you because you have to develop some compensations. Unless you can restructure your spine, you're going to have to develop some compensation. So your workout should involve a good mix of unilateral and bilateral training. Now, if you haven't done unilateral training or a whole block of unilateral training, then I think you should start with that. Like a MAP symmetry would be wonderful for you.
Perfect for him.
And I think that would probably make you feel a lot better. And then from there, I would go ahead and do some of our other programs. Make sure you interject every program with a symmetry.
I mean, he could almost get away with running it, indefinitely.
Oh, because you got the end, right?
Yeah, because you have the end.
Yeah, we expose that.
You could almost run that. That program is written for you. That's a really good program for you to follow almost indefinitely. Not that I'm saying what Sal said is wrong, but that program is so complete for what I would want to do with you as a client. That's what it would look like. It would have an isometric component in it. It would have unilateral work predominantly, and then occasionally we'd introduce some bilateral stuff for Sal's point, and then go right back to that unilateral and isometric. True. So it's a perfect program for you.
Do you have that program?
I don't think I do.
We're going to send that to you.
We're going to send that to you. And by the way, I'm glad you got the imaging done, because that tells us that your pain is probably musculature. It's probably not structural, which means that it can be solved, and it could probably be solved pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I know psychologically it's hard to get a diagnosis if that's something that you're not prepared for initially. And so that might be like a little bit put you back in terms of like, well, what can I do? But you're going to be surprised, especially like going through like a symmetry on how, that's going to make you feel overall strong and adequate and functional and everything else, like you're going to be doing just fine. And, you're going to build muscle and strength just the same as you would previous to this diagnosis.
I've had several clients that were diagnosed with scoliosis that were pain-free, built amazing physiques, could do what everybody else should do. So you absolutely have massive potential ahead of you. Like to Justin's point, it sucks to hear something like that. But yeah, do not be discouraged. Do not give up. The move is for you to train that core strength, train the unilateral work, the isometric stuff that we have in symmetry, be consistent with it. You'll be all right, man.
Now, Alex, you said it's an S curve. Is that like kyphosis? Is that what you mean by that, or is it like a lateral curvature in the spine?
It's more of a kyphosis.
Okay, you're okay, and it's not like it's not major, right? It's like you said, it's kind of like a mild.
It's mild, yeah. So like the imaging just showed like, hey, you have slight deviations, at these, couple points, but
that's super.
It's been concerning because I just I want to be able to get back to where I was before, but like when you guys just talk about it, it's very reassuring.
Yeah, dude, we'll send you symmetry.
You'll get back there.
Follow that. I would not be surprised at all for you that you would feel a lot better at the end of it. Just make sure you train with perfect form and don't go crazy with trying to push yourself with the weight.
Slowly, right?
Yep.
Just work your way through it slowly. Watch the strength increase substantially.
Awesome. All
right, brother. Thanks for calling in, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
No problem. You know what's funny about this
Mm-hmm.
is, so I used to train, I trained a few surgeons, and I remember one of them, orthopedic surgeon, he said, you know what, Sal? He goes, you took 100 people outside, and if you image them, half of them would have something, half of them would have nothing, and then the half that had something, half of those would feel something, and others wouldn't, and then the people with nothing would feel something. He goes, this whole thing is like, sometimes there's obvious stuff, and other times it's like,
I know
what's going on, and kyphosis is like, that's super common.
Yeah,
you'd see that in so many people.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys made the point to. This is an example of. I mean, everybody I would be like this, but this is where you become like hyper vigilant about the technique. Like before I ever add more weight to the bar with this client or a heavier dumbbell, it's like, ooh, let's make that even better, like even tighter, right? And why I'm doing that form is because in order for him to have the most beautiful, perfect form, his core has to be just locked in and his body communicating perfectly together. And that, for this type of person, becomes even more important than the average person. But I've had plenty of clients that were diagnosed with this and built the most amazing physiques.
So many.
They still crushed it.
Had no pain, and the average person would have
I bet
no
you
idea.
had at some point, it's a little bit of excessive kyphosis.
Yeah, I'm sure I've never actually had them diagnose me, but I do have that.
You stick your butt out, for sure.
Thanks for noticing.
No problem. Look, just for Instagram. Look, if you like our programs and you want to follow some for very, very low cost, go to Instagram, Mind Pump Media, for under $5 a month. You'll get a free workout hooked up every single week. You can also find all of us on Instagram. Justin is at Mind Pump Justin. I'm at Mind Pump Mind Pump DeStefano. And Adam is at Mind Pump Adam.
Today, we're going to teach you everything you need to know to build a strong, well-developed chest.
When I think of weak points and areas that I struggled with developing for a really long time, chest was up there with the
Yeah, it was for me. It was for me for sure. I got more caught up in the weight I could lift versus how I was developing my body.
I think it's one of the most challenging muscles to develop for most people because the form and technique.